Hello everyone! Ever since I've been interested in the Titanic and other ships, I've always wanted to know more about the breakup. In fact, when I was much younger, 3 or 4, I remember I would repeat the breakup scene in the Titanic movie. Today we'll be discussing the 3 most likely Titanic breakup theories. To answer this question, these are in order of how likely they are. Third being least likely out of the 3, and the first being most likely. And at the end, my personal breakup theory, which is most likely a mix of all 3, not necessarily mine. Disclaimer, I am no expert. I know a few things about ships and I have an interest in them. I am no expert, so don't take anything I say as truth. Thank you. Enjoy. But first, we must understand why there are theories in the first place. You see, on the night the Titanic sank, it was pitch black. No moon, only starlight. And also, on that night, there was what was known as a cold water mirage. So it was very hard to see. I won't go into the cold water mirage, but all you need to know is it made a false horizon that obscured objects, like icebergs, in the false horizon. So why is this important? Well, you see, because of the conditions that night, once the lights went out, it was pitch black. And couple that with it was freezing, most people in the water, and even in the boats, were paying attention to the cold and surviving. So this created something interesting. Half of the survivors said the Titanic broke apart, and half said it sank intact. And someone at the United States inquiry into the disaster said they saw the ship break. So, this was looked into. Lucky for the inquiry, 4 of Titanic's officers survived the sinking, these being Second Officer Charles Lightoller, Third Officer Herbert Pittman, and Fourth Officer Joseph Boxhall, and also Fifth Officer Harold Lowe. Now, I'll not go into what each officer said. That has already been covered by many other channels and articles. This video is about the most likely, in my opinion, breakup theories. Number 3, James Cameron's banana peel theory. This theory proposes that the ship reached an angle of 23 degrees and fractures, top down, all the way to the keel and double bottom. The keel and double bottom hold together for a time as the stern falls down. The double bottom acts as a hinge, and as the double bottom and draft buckled, it had a peeling effect. Eventually, the keel and double bottom fail, fully separating the bow and stern. The stern lifts to port and begins to sink, going vertical. However, this is modern James Cameron theory. If you watch the movie, you can see how the double bottom and draft hold on, as seen here. But the break point is after the third funnel. New evidence shows it was around the base of the third funnel, not after it. And there's no port list, and the breakup angle is too high. But that's a decision, so the movie is more dramatic. So I'm not going to go really say that's a historical inaccuracy. Number 2, Roy Mengat theory. Or Mangat. No, I'm just kidding, it's Mengat. This theory claims that the Titanic's keel and double bottom failed first due to compression forces from the weight of the stern. This theory proposes that the ship's initial point of hull failure was just after boiler 4. This caused the midsection of the ship to compress and crush from the bottom. The failure began in the ship bottom structure when the ship had an angle of around 17 degrees. The failure began to spread the breadth of the ship, then upward, and also spread forward and aft, and rivets along beams until the double bottom and keel failed, and the ship snapped. When the stern came back down into the water, it was more or less floating on its own, only held at the bow section by the strength deck, on B deck, by double thick plates you can see here. You see, as the bow dropped, due to how it was attached from the top, the stern lifted up a bit, forming a ramp-like shape, seen here. The bow just now waterlogged dead weight, with no buoyancy, it pulled the stern under, eventually completely breaking off. The breakup was not symmetrical. The stern listed to port, so the starboard section may have failed first, leaving the flooded bow section to pull down the port side of the stern until they broke off completely. This left the stern section to float on its own, eventually going almost vertical and sinking. And about the bottom failing first, it would explain the towers and debris from the ship's midsection. This theory is pretty likely. However, I do have some skepticisms, in that I find it hard to believe a 15,000 ton, keep in mind we don't know the exact weight, odd ton stern, was held at the bow only by shrink deck and a bit of superstructure. Number 1, Honesty of Glass theory. While I have not fully read Honesty of Glass, I am in the process, so I might get a few details wrong, but there are a ton of videos and animations of the theory, so I am trying to be as accurate as I can. I may revisit this theory once I've fully read the book. This theory proposes that the breakup of the Titanic began at 2:18 a.m., with the ship's lights going out, plunging the Titanic and the people around her into total darkness. Horrific rumbling and screeching sounds are heard. Then she broke in two. Then 3 or 4 smaller pieces, such as the forward tower and aft tower. The stern falls back slowly a couple degrees. Water pours through the cracks, and the ship lifts slightly to port and begins to sink. She goes almost vertical and goes down in a spiral. This is said to be the most accurate to survivor testimony and evidence. It was developed by Tom Linsky and multiple other Titanic historians. This theory is highly likely. I cannot state too many problems. So there you have it. 3 breakup theories, all of which are very different, and it's really interesting because we don't know how the Titanic broke apart and sank. It was a dark, cold night with contradicting testimony. I tried my best to tell these accurately. Now, my theory. As I said before, it's more of a combination of all the previous theories. 2:18 a.m. The Titanic gets to a 23-degree angle and begins to break apart. Deep groans can be heard throughout the ship, and then she breaks. First on the starboard side near the engines. A few parts of the starboard double bottom are holding on, but weakened. The starboard side failed first, due to the ship having a very small list of port. The starboard part of the double bottom bends and peels, breaking off. The midsection of the ship compresses, and the only thing the starboard side is still attached with is the shrink deck, which gives way, causing the structure to weaken. The bow begins pulling the stern down. The port double bottom is bending and peeling, same with the shrink deck, with the double thick plates. The stern gets pulled down by the bow, then the port side double bottom fails, causing the rest of the towers and debris to fall. The stern is listing heavily to port, and then at 2:20 goes almost vertical and sinks. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed. I learned a lot about these theories while researching. I hope you enjoyed. See you next time. Have a great day.